Is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, this is Hillary from vintrace. Welcome to our harvest webinar. We are going to give it a few more minutes for everybody to log in, and we will spend probably the first 5 to 10 minutes of this webinar going over the app and all the new app features that are related to harvest, and then we will dive into the desktop version. So if you've not if you've not downloaded the vintrace app, you can go to your app store and download it. And also, if you've not updated your app recently, please update the app. We are doing lots of new releases, so every couple weeks there's new versions of the app out. So also you can tell your phone to auto update the vintrace app as well. So we're going to give a couple more minutes and then we'll start. Alrighty, welcome to our 2019 Harvest webinar. We are going to start the webinar through the app. So if you've not downloaded the app, please do so. We're going to start with bringing up some blocks. So just by clicking the middle of the screen, I'm going to bring up one of my blocks. So I type in B2, and you can see everything that has a B2, meaning the J's are my juice lots. And then if I scroll down, I can see my little grape clusters with all of my fruit blocks. So I can click on my Chardonnay block, and then this will open up all of your information about that block. If you have been lucky enough to have vintrace for multiple years, you will be able to scroll through the wine's history and see the date it was harvested, the expected tons versus received tons, the Brix, the pH, kind of what that wine has been over time. This example is really bad because we have both US and Australia using it, but you kind of get the idea of all the different vintages. You can scroll across and see how the wine has, or the grapes have progressed over time. You can also go to the details tab and see the clone, the rootstock, any information you've put in about that block will be here. And then the next one is the lab tab. So from the lab tab, you are able to enter. So say I'm out in the vineyard right now, we did some Brix and things are looking good. We're at 19.5. And you can instantly enter that in. Also, if you're doing any cluster weights, you can do that as well. And if you need to add a new value, you do have the add results at the bottom. So you can click add results, and then you have a whole list of all of your lab analysis. So anything that you have entered in your database will be listed here. So you can scroll through and see all of that. What we have seen, so cluster weight, we're now at 1/2 pound. So now let's enter that in. You can also take this app one step farther by entering in lab analysis for veraison, botrytis, red blotch, seed browning, any visual aspects of the vineyard. As you go walking through the vineyard, you can see, okay, when did when did bud break happen? When did veraison, if you're walking through the vineyard, is it 10%, 20, 30, 50, 100? You can also enter a lab analysis called cluster counts. So you can go through and count clusters and enter that data into vintrace as well. So with the app being very vineyard block focused, you can really beef up the data that you put in, not only just your Brix and pH and TA that you have to run in the lab, but also as the winemaker or anybody walking through the vineyard, you can add that data in. All right, so after we've done the data, we can say we're ready to book this. As you can see, there's already been 2 bookings. You can see the little booking with the 2, and there's 2 bookings. One of them you can see is confirmed, so we've already brought in the 9.9 tons. And then you can see there's another expected for today, 10 tons. So you can see what's been confirmed and then what's been scheduled. So, and then also at the bottom, you can create a new booking. So say we're going to create another booking, we're going to pick more of this tomorrow. So I can say expected date can be the 7th. Time, we're going to do nice and early, 8 a.m. And we're going to get another 10 tons tomorrow morning. And then if you are a custom crush facility or you do have multiple owners, you do have the option to choose who is going to own this fruit and make any additional notes. And then you can hit create. So now you can see we have our booking from June 27th, what's supposed to come in today, and what's coming in tomorrow. So we're going to say the fruit is here. So that's where we can click on today's, and you can receive the fruit from here, or you can update at the bottom. If plans have changed, you do have the update option to update that for another date. So we're going to say this is here. So at the very bottom, we're going to hit receive. And then if you are doing more of a truck scale, you can enter the gross, and you can see on the bottom left, there is a tear later. So you can just enter the gross of the truck and then come back later and tear it out. So we're going to say the gross. So I can see I'm in T, so I'm in tons. Your guys's will probably be set to pounds. If it is, you realize on the app set to tons instead of pounds. Through winery setup, you can change that. So I'm going to say 10.75. And then choose my scale. You can enter the license plate. You can do any bin details. So I can say number of bins. There's 20 bins. You can do a description, any delivery details. All of this additional information is not required, is completely optional. But the really nice thing about doing this on your phone is you can take pictures of the weigh tag, any documents the truck driver brings in. You can take pictures of fruit. So say I want to take some pictures of fruit. Got some good looking fruit right there. And then take a picture of a document. So say the truck driver brings a piece of paper. We can take a picture of that. And we can attach all of that. So since I don't have the tear, I can say tear later. It will upload those files and that information. So then I can come back to that booking. So we'll go here to the parcels. From this booking, or the one that says in progress, and then the one completed. So you don't want to weigh it in from the bookings. You don't want to weigh it in again because you've already weighed it in. You want to go to the next tab and find the one that's in progress. Click on it, and now you're ready to tear out. So now we're going to tear out 1.25 tons. And then if everything looks good, you can say submit. So now it turns it into ready to process. So this depends also on your size of winery. You can pretty much from the phone, as you're seeing, you can do sampling, schedule a booking, weigh in the fruit, and now I'm going to show you how we can crush the fruit, or in this case being Chardonnay, to press the fruit into a tank. So I'm going to say we're going to process the Chardonnay, hit process now. We're going to tell vintrace how we're doing this, crusher, no roller. We're going to sort, destem, and crush. We're going to use a crusher, and we're going to press it. And then hit next. We're using all 9.5 tons. Go next. Make any additives. So these are any additives you're making to the crusher or the press. So additive, we're going to add some KMBS. And this is kilos per ton. Again, yours will use grams per ton, milliliters per ton, based on your unit of how you set up the rate in your winery setup. So we're going to say 0.25. So then that'll give me a grand total. Then location wants to know which lot code are you using. If you only have one lot code, vintrace will default this for you. And then you can also add, once you click the little checkbox, then I've added my one additive. You can keep adding more additives. And then the next screen is asking which tank are you putting this wine in. So we can put this in F5. And you can see that my first cup will have wine in it, but my F4 says empty. And then my batch is going to be my 19 CH. And you can select, since this is a B2, but I'm going to have it B2, maybe lot 2. And then you can create. So you can create a batch name on the fly. And then fraction type, this can be a free run tank. And then you can add another tank and make this tank be your pressing tank. So F5. Ooh, my Hills wine is going to be this. So then you can also enter pre and post dips. So if you do have dip charts in on your desktop version, you can enter them in here or enter in the total amount. So we're going to say, let's say 1,000 gallons of free run, and then let's say 500 gallons of pressing. And then once we hit review, this is a really nice screen because it gives you a summary of what you just did. So 9.5 tons of vin crush. We've made one additive, a total of 1,500 gallons in 2 vessels. And then also you can see my yield is 158. So that's a good indicator if maybe you entered in the wrong dip or the wrong gallons. You'll see that number be really high or low. And if you realize you made a mistake, you can hit the little pencil. And then I can go back to this tank and was actually, say, 600 gallons. And then now that has adjusted my yields. Once you're happy with that, we can hit submit. And then now it tells you on your app screen, it's been completed. So this is all going from the block screen. Also, the plus at the top gives you the same, receiving, processing, record a lab, or create a booking as going to the little tabs across the middle of the screen. So kind of all of these middle ones. The other nice thing about the app is from the home screen, instead of typing in the block, you can click the little harvest button at the bottom where it says to harvest. And this is a great little calendar. So this shows you what you have on the agenda for today, what you have on the agenda for tomorrow, what was brought in yesterday. So it's a nice little calendar view. And also from this calendar view, from the plus at the top, you can create a booking or receive fruit. So you don't always have to go from the block itself. You can just go from the calendar and receive in the fruit or create a booking for later this week. So especially for winemakers who are out talking to the growers, walking the vines, you can be out there and schedule bookings for your team to know. Also, if you click the little kind of lines with the bubbles, you can sort by a certain grower, vineyards, or blocks to kind of see what you have planned for the day, week, or month. And then also, if you click on the work order screen, you can see work orders that you have scheduled. So here's, adding yeast, so creating an inoculation. You can go through and complete that. If you guys do have any questions about the app, please let us know. Oh, another thing about the app, from the plus at the top, You can add a block from your phone. So if you're out in a vineyard and you realize you don't have this block, it's a new block this year, you can click there to add a block. So give it a block name. So we're going to call it B2-Hills. The varietal is going to be Pinot Noir. And how many rows do we have? I don't know. You don't have to, it's not a required field. Who is the grower? JX2 Winery. What is the vineyard name? It's going to be JX2 Paso. And if you would like to add another block, you have that option as well, or just that information is all we need, and then by hitting submit. So and then I just created that new block. So now if I type in B2, there's my B2 Hills block. So the app is becoming more, you can create things on the fly. Also with that, I can bring up one of my wines. So my Chardonnay I just pressed. So say we're out in the winery and I want to inoculate this or add some enzymes, add some sulfur. You can click on the plus at the top and make an addition. So then I can say, if you did have this same wine in multiple tanks, vintrace would list out all of those tanks on this screen. So different tanks, different barrels, you're able to do all of that and then say next. We're going to add some tartaric. And we're going to add 10 grams per gallon. It'll give us our total. And then you can add an additional additive, or if that's all we added, then you can say review. It'll give you a summary of what you did. You hit submit. And now you've just added tartaric acid to this wine. So if you look at the history of this wine in vintrace, it will show that ad. Also from this screen, you can change the product state of this wine. So I can scroll through and choose a current product state of this wine. So it can say, I've added my acid and my water already to this wine, so I can check that off. You can assign a program, a grading, any of that information, and it'll also say at the very bottom when the last ad happened was now. You can also add tags. This is a very new feature. You will see when you click that all the current tags that have been used, or you can create a new one. So it could be so there we go. Let me make that capital. And then hit create. So now that is created. So with that, you can also, with tags, you can search them. So if I close out of this and I type in, it'll bring up that wine. I click on it, and then I can also go to the lab tab. Say we're running some bricks and temp. I can go to the bricks and say this wine's at 22. Say okay. So now I've just entered bricks at 22 and then entering the temperature. So this is, if you are going tank by tank, entering bricks and temp, you can have someone do this on their phone, iPad, tablet. You can also go to the note field, make a note, or also the little chemistry breakdown. And then this does show you the block at the bottom. So as you start to blend your wines together, vintrace will start to show you the block composition from the phone. So give it a shot, download, give us feedback. We're creating tons of new features on the app every week. Also, if you click the little tape measure, you're able to adjust the volume. So we added some water, so we have a little bit more volume. So now we can see the volume is 1200. Hit the checkbox. We need to provide a loss reason called a correction, and we've just made an adjustment to that tank. And we're taking a 20% gain. So now we've gained the volume. Also, if there's a barrel group, So if I pull up this barrel group, that's only one barrel. This one only has two, but nope, that's tank. Here we go. Here's the barrel group. You can see the icon, there's 3 barrels. Next to the barrel group name, there is the 3 little barrel icon, and if you click on that, it brings up a list of all of your barrels, and then you can click on them to find out the year, the Cooper, the Forest, and also if you click on the little icon up there, you can sort them by year and Cooper and things like that. All right, so I think that's everything for the app. And then also you have the scanning ability at the bottom to scan any barcodes or anything like that. If you have any other questions about the app, please read the release notes or give us a call. So now I'm going to go to the desktop. And then also with the app, you can complete work orders. Barreling down work orders are great. You can just grab a normal tablet, phone, iPad, and scan the barcodes for your barrels. Okay, so I'm not going to go too much into winery setup because that is something I did do in the pre-harvest webinar. So if you missed the pre-harvest webinar, please send us an email and we can send you that link. The main thing I wanted to talk about is I wanted to bring up, I made an Excel sheet to make it a little bit clearer. These are some great examples of analysis templates that you can make and product states. So kind of like when I made that acid ad, I changed the product state of that wine to kind of indicate that an acid and water has already been added. So then that next step could be then to run a juice panel to then inoculate. So a lot of these product states and analysis templates and additive templates will need to go hand in hand. You don't want to have to manually change the product states. You want vintrace to do it for you. So as you make an acid add, it triggers the change of the product state to the acid's been added. To trigger when you've added yeast, you've changed it to either inoculated or it's ready for your B's and T's, things like that. So having the two of them go hand in hand. If you have any questions about this, let us know. Also, we're recording this webinar, so you can pause this and enter any of these in your database as well. If you've not set up ETS or your Y15 or your Kimwell or any lab equipment, we do have a great online help that walks you through how to set those up or give support a call. Just one thing to mention in system policies, if you are newer, there's an edit default extraction rate. So make sure you go in there and change your default rate if it's too high, too low, or if you don't have anything. This is where you can set that up. If you don't want it to be just one rate, you can go into varietals and have a different rate based on the varietal. And then just the other thing to mention under workflow is defaults. So you'll want to make sure you default the vintage 2019 once you start receiving in your first load of grapes. And then you can also default your scale and a few other things. So this is where you can go through that and making sure you have the correct scales and owners and labs and weights and all that set as defaults. If you have any other questions about winery setup, please let us know. I'm going to jump right into vineyard sampling. So through consoles sampling, this is where you'll go in to enter your samples. Up here, you want to be careful because this is what you're searching, what you've already told vintrace you want to sample for the year. So if you just hit search, I did this in the pre-harvest webinar, but this is where you can see what's already been entered. And you can see right here my block B2CH. I've entered it from my phone. So if you enter it from your phone or here, they match up. So ideally, you'll want to upload all of these in pre-sampling. So if you have any questions about the sample set, please watch the pre-harvest webinar. But you can do a quick add and upload in all of your samples, and then you can enter them in through the app or one by one here, or exporting this out to a CSV file, entering in all of your results. and then uploading it back in. So this up here will just be searching for a specific vineyard. So if I just do, so say I'm looking up, I'm going to JX2 Paso Vineyard. So I just want to see my Paso, all my vineyards, or all of my blocks from this vineyard. You'll bring this up and then you can print labels, export this out to a CSV, or just one by one, go add. Okay, so now we're ready to start bringing in our fruit. So there's two ways to do it. From the fruit intake console, you can either already have it scheduled from the app, or from your phone. You can see here, I've already received 9.5 tons. That's what we did together on the phone. And then this one is just scheduled, but it hasn't been received. So I'm going to show you how to make scheduling a booking through the phone, or sorry, schedule a booking through the desktop version. So going to new at the bottom, schedule a booking, and then choose your block. So I'm going to do my B2 Hillary. And by choosing the block first, it defaults a grower contract. So even though this block is brand new, since the grower contract was connected to anything that was grown by JX2, that will link it all together. And then we'll just say my estimated tons is going to be 20 tons. And this is all you have to fill out for the booking side of things. And then once I hit save, you can see here's my new booking. A very similar screen like you saw on the iPhone. If you click the calendar at the bottom, it brings up that similar calendar view that you saw on the phone. And the really nice thing about this is you can print this out for a week view or a day view by the bottom by click print booking. I call this a great kind of morning powwow sheet. You can have it printed out. Everybody's there in the morning, you're doing your stretches, kind of giving them the lay of the land of what's happening. You can say, here's what's coming in today. They can see the varietals, the tonnage. You can't always hand write in certain tanks it's going to go into. You can also print this out and have it a clipboard at the weigh house. So as trucks are coming in, they can check off as stuff has been received. So they kind of have a rough idea. We're expecting 85 tons today, and they can see what's come in. Or if something comes in that wasn't scheduled, they know to let you guys know, hey, this lot of Chardonnay came in, we weren't expecting it. Alrighty, so that's kind of the nice little calendar. Alrighty. So now we can say we want to write a work order. So what I showed you on the phone was all happening now in the moment. So there was no work order. You're doing it on the floor as you're pressing it. It's all done in the moment. Or you can write a work order. So from your from your booking, you can go crush/press and write a work order. So from the work order, this is where you can choose. This is a Chardonnay lot. So we're gonna crush it, press it. We're not gonna destem it. For juice use only. Do not check it. You're only checking this box if you are a juice and go facility. Basically, checking this box means you do not plan to ferment it. So ideally, it's better off you don't check it. And if you need it checked, we can create a product treatment to put that wine in the juice tax class. If you check it and you did not want to check it, we have to undo all the work you've done to these grapes to take it back to this screen. We'll have to do rollbacks and roll it all the way back to here to untick it to go forward. So do not check this box unless if you're 200% sure you need to check it. Okay, so next is the vessel. So we're going to go into F5 and we're going to go to number 7. And then our batch name is going to be 19CH B2. And then when I hit enter, it'll say 2 lots like this exist. Is this either one of those, or you can create a new one? So in this case, I'm going to say yes, this is the same, but then I'm going to add a line and call this my pressing lot. So 19CH. And then once you hit enter, it's going to say no results. You're going to create that batch name. So verifying the owner, the programs, if you do have a custom crush facility, making sure the service orders are auto-filling, and all of that information. Okay, so now I got my 2 tanks. This one's going to be a free run tank. This one's going to be a pressing tank. And then also, if you're making any adds to the press or the crusher, you'll want to do the additions up here. So I can click here, add a line, KMBS. Oops, 1.5 kilos per ton. And then go back to our general. And then for the pressing, we're just going to make an add to that. And then you can do a rate. We're just going to add 500 grams, say OK. And then you can request lab analysis or any adds for that. So I can say I want a juice panel. So anything that you do here is being done only to that one vessel. And then we can say add to work order. Now you can see here's my extraction, my analysis. Up here is your general instructions. So these are your SOPs. So I can scroll through and see what am I doing. We're going to do a crush. So I can click on that and I'll have my crush notes. And then also up here, I can have it that we're crushing, we're pressing. And if you need to add more notes, you can click the little pencil here. And then once you're happy, save as ready. And then this will print out, first it'll pop up your Word document of your work order, and then you can make any highlights, delete before printing. Alrighty, so here is the work order screen. If you are not using this work order to enter in your bin, gross, tear, and net, you can go into your work order templates and you can remove this. If you don't know how to do that, we did do a webinar on customizing your work order templates. We also have an online guide, or you can also email into support and we can remove this box for you. So if you are using your own way tag sheet or the printout that vintrace gives you before this screen, you can do that as well. So I'm going to show you if I delete this. So here's the work order. Let me zoom in. So at the top, we've got our crush and our press. We've got our instructions. Then we have our booking, the block, all that information. The adds we're going to make to the crusher. And then we also have our tanks we're going to fill. The adds we're going to make to the one tank, and you can highlight this as well, being a Word document, and then analysis sample. The nice thing about a Word document is you can delete this. You don't need the seller to know what's going to be ran. You just need them to pull the sample. So you can delete any of that additional information that the seller does not need, and then you have your work order. So let me zoom out so you guys get the full, there's the full picture. Okay, so now we've written the work order. We're going to say the fruit is here. So we can go to, so if I close back out of here, go back into the fruit intake console. Be aware, vintrace sets everything to only today. So if you do need to see tomorrow or yesterday or the last 7 days, last 5, last or next, you'll want to play up with the dates up here. So we're going to say this has arrived. So I can click arrive and then enter in the weights. So again, you can have your tons, pounds, kilos. We're going to say we got 10.5. We're going to tear out 0.75. And then vintrace will give us our net. And then I can say we had 21 bins. This is just a written description, or if you physically go to the bins tab, you can add bins one by one, or you can also quick load your bins by choosing your bin description. I'm using this bin and oops, click on it. And we got 21 of those, hit OK. This is set to weighing one bin at a time. Or if you are weighing your bins 2 bins at a time, you'll want to create a bin that's called 2 bins. So then the tare will be the tare of your 2 bins. So then you can just enter in your gross of those 2 bins, and then vintrace will give you the tare of those 2 bins, and then the net of all of that together. And once you do that, it erases the weight I had before. So I'm actually going to just close out of this, and I'll have to enter in all of those bins. Okay, so going back, clicking arrive. And then if you are doing any costing or any lab analysis, you can see it's defaulting to the contract ZF test, and then it has defaulted analysis template. You do not have to enter the analysis now, but if you don't have it defaulted, you can't do it later. So it's one of those things, you default it now and you can come back later and enter those in. And then also with photos, you can either choose to take them and upload them here, or if you're doing this all from the phone, you saw it earlier. Okay, the next screen is going to be the dates. This happened now, which scale. The scale will only be the biggest factor if you are a multi-facility. So if you have 2 wineries, you'll want to make sure you're choosing the correct winery if you have multiple bonds, APs, things like that. If you have any questions, give us a call, because the scale attaches the fruit to a bond, which attaches it to your 702 report. So if you're a 1 winery with 1 scale, 1 TTB report, you're fine. If you are multi-winery, multiple owners, multiple bonds, things like that, give us a call if you have any questions. So say with this Syrah, we've got 9.7 tons, we assume, of 1 block, and then they said they just picked the block next to it, which was roughly 2 bins. You can add another load. So since it all came in on the same truck, I want to all be on the same weigh tag. You have the option to include it's the same block or it's a different block. And this is where I can choose my block. If I type in SY, or this is also a great example if you do Syrah and Viognier, if you do any co-ferments or they pick them together. Either 2 blocks you pick together, different varietals you pick together. Basically with vintrace, you can't, this is the way you merge 2 blocks that are picked at the same time. So we're going to say my B1. And we can just say we got 0.5. Say okay. And then now you can see we've got our 9.7 and our 0.5. Once we're happy with that, we can hit save. And then this is generating your vintrace weight tag. Also from Winery Setup, if you are doing this from your phone, you can default a printer. So when you use that scale, this weight tag will print to the assigned printer. And I talk about all that in my pre-harvest webinar. So here is your weight tag for those two weights. And you can see at the bottom, we have a winery copy. We can create that vintrace will automatically default multiple prints. So you can have a winery copy, a grower copy, and a truck driver copy as well. So then vintrace will always print 3 copies of all weight tags. Okay, so now you can see my fruit here. I've got my my Syrah 9.75 tons, and then my 1,000 pounds. Also with this, you can print out, so say this block, when I worked in New Zealand, at New Zealand wineries, we worked off of this docket. No, I lied. Scale booking. We would print out this scale booking and send it to our growers, or whoever was out in the field as the grapes were getting picked. We would hand this to the truck drivers. So the truck driver knew where to deliver it. There's an email. If he has any questions, he can call, and then he can hand this scale booking to the person at the scale house, and you are able to scan this barcode to bring up that booking. It's also nice, you know what block it is, how many truckloads. If this was supposed to be, say, 5 truckloads, and after truckload 3, they're done, on the 3rd piece of paper, it can say done. The truck driver can also write their name and number and all that information. So if you are a larger winery, this is really helpful. Or also you can pre-print these out just for the scale house. So as the trucks drive up, the scale house person can hand this to the truck driver to fill it out as they unload the bins or start taking the truck weights. The other one is the scale worksheet. So this is a sheet you can print out to enter in your bins, 2x2, trucks, and all of like that. This sheet can be customized. So if you want to change anything, please let us know. Alrighty, so now that we have received these, but we did write a work order for this. So we'll go to the work order to complete this. So that's creating the booking, or you can just say unplanned arrival and you would just weigh the fruit in now. So this one we're going to arrive, we're going to say 5 tons. Okay, so then we're going to say now and save. Our 5 tons of Pinot is here. That's weight tag. So with the 5 tons of Pinot, since it just arrived, we didn't write the work order, so we can just crush it now and go crush and press now. So this is skipping the work order. Alrighty, so with the Pinot, we're saying it happened now. Here's the 5 tons. If you do want to mix in any other, so say I got 2 different Pinot lots and I didn't weigh them in on the same weigh tag, you can add a line and search. And the only things that will show up is all bookings that does not have fruit fully processed. So you can scroll through and see. We really like our Chardonnay. You can scroll through and attach any other bookings to this as well. I'm just going to leave it just the Pinot. We're not going to press this, but we're going to destem it. We're going to do tank. Number 10. Call this my 19. And then all red fruit is must. If you're putting must in the tank, the fraction type needs to be must. If you do Seigneur off the press line, this is where you can add a line. Let's say I'm going to put the Seigneur. We don't have porta tanks. We're going to put this in a barrel and call it my rosé, save. And then this is where you can do the fraction type being Seigneur. So I can tell vintrace that the full 5 tons of must went into tank 1, or, this first tank, and then Seigneur, after we got about 75 gallons of Seigneur from the crush line. So I'll show you the next step is if you Seigneur from a tank, what you'll do. So this is if you Seigneur from the crush line. Again, you have your additions at the top or your additions here. When you click verify, it gives you your estimated extraction, gallons per ton, and then we can hit save. It'll give us a warning that we're going to overfill a vessel. Oh, the barrel. Let's just go 55. Save. It says we're doing a rosé. Okay, so now if we close out of here and I bring up my lot, if you go %sign and then type in what you're looking for, it'll bring up all my wines that have hills on the end. And then here is our must tank. So say this tank, we're actually going to Seigneur off the rosé from the tank multiple hours later, next day. You will have to do a press cycle because if you just do a transfer, you're transferring the must. So you will need to do a press cycle and then tell vintrace that you're pressing out, say 50 gallons. You can create a press called Seigneur and then choose your vessel you're going to go into the batch. Fraction type being Seigneur. Sure, we're just going to overfill it. It'll get mad at me, but we'll continue. Okay, so now if we go look at this rosé, you can see the little J is red. You can click the pencil and change it from, oops, not the pencil, I lied, this pencil, from the product at the top, change it from red to rosé. So now you have your pink J. So everything else, kind of going through doing your adds and transfers, we are going to do a barrel down of one of those Chardonnays, so we can do a barrel height. So we'll go 19 CH, sorry, not a barrel height, a fermentation height of that barrel group. So we'll bring up my lot 2. Operation, we're going to transfer to barrel group. All 1,200 gallons. And then to create that barrel group, we'll click on the star plus. Choose our area where we're going to store these barrels. Put them in that barrel shed, and then we can search. If you are using the app, you can say provide fill instructions. Tell them the number of barrels. So I want them to fill 24 barrels, and you can give them a description of X amount of new and old, certain coopers, things like that. Just for this example, I'm going to actually just search for the barrels. But if you are doing it through the app or a scanner, you can just save this after you fill in kind of this instructions. And then the seller can open this up on the app and scan the barrels that they fill. So I'm going to go search, empty, and then there is a last contained right here. Last contained white. And then I'll bring up all of your white barrels so then I can go through. You cannot hold shift. You will have to click each individual one. vintrace starts to give you a total at the bottom. And this is going to be a while. Alrighty. So we've got all of our barrels. We hit use selection. And then this is where it's a little funky. You want to select all of your barrels, set them as specific. Oh wait, go I know the volume of wine. Now we want to set them all as partial. So you got to do this first. I know the volume of wine, set them all as partial, change your amount to being your 1200 gallons, and then hit apportion. So this will distribute the gallons accordingly to those lots. You can manually, instead of apportioning it out, you can go specific and manually do that as well. But that is how you do that fermentation height barrels. And then hit save, and then now and save. And this is service charge. So if you are client billing, this is what will pop up when you complete a work order with your man hours and labor and things like that. So we're not going to go into that today. We are doing a client billing webinar next Monday as well if you are interested. Okay, so now we filled all those barrels. Next is for doing inoculation. So very similar like doing your SO2 ads and things like that. You can select multiple wines at once. So I can go to my unfermented juices and select all of those and use one of my work order templates. So I can select my lots I want to ferment, actions, do a multi-addition, and then I can choose my additive template, my inoculation, and then it will auto default in my yeast if you have any rates. My yeast and my DAP, the rates are already defaulted, and if you hit calculate value, it will calculate that out for you. One thing to be aware of is that it's starting a treatment to start alcoholic fermentation, and then the product state is being changed to inoculated. If you are doing native ferments and you're just going to maybe add some DAP or some nutrients to your wines or acid or anything like that, this additive template, even if there wasn't yeast, could still cause the treatment to start fermentation. That is one thing with vintrace is if you are doing native yeast, you'll need something else to start that fermentation, or you'll manually have to hit start, or just by adding a nutrient or an acid, you can make that start the fermentation. These boxes are pink for one of two reasons. One, I don't have enough inventory, or two, I have multiple lot codes to pick from. I'm not going to go through and do this, but you want to go through, click the little forklift, and pick the correct lot code you use for all of these. Okay, so once I would have saved that work order, then it would have started fermentation for all of these wines. And then my little J's would turn to W's. Make sure you do not double press your whites, and make sure you do press your reds. So if your reds have an M and you've already barreled it down, that means you did not do a press cycle before barreling down. Okay, so I'm going to go back into my fruit intake console. So say after you've crushed those lots, and I thought this Syrah was supposed to be a Viognier, not a Syrah. You can go in and fix any of these mistakes. So finding that Syrah that was supposed to be a Viognier, you can click on it and hit correct. Again, only if you have local vintrace admin permissions. And then you can go into here and choose what you need to correct. If it's not this one, we can hit OK. We want to edit the half ton. Click edit, and then this is where we can change the block to actually being I don't know if we even have any. We're just going to say we're going to add Sauvignon Blanc, guys. You can choose the new block and it'll fill in all that information. Once we hit OK, it's now changed that information you give. Wrong block. And then anywhere that wine has been blended or added, it will update the composition of that wine from a Syrah to a Sauvignon Blanc. And then reprints out the weight tag and all of that. Also from that screen, I should have done it. If the weights were wrong, you can also correct the weight. Oh wait, we also had, 0.5 mog. Then that will adjust your tare of your net of your wine. So if any volumes or weights are incorrect, this is where you can go in and fix that. And if you did double book anything, like bring it in twice, this is where you can also then reverse that booking. So then you can undo that double intake. If you have any questions, you're unsure about anything, please give support a call. So I'm just looking at my notes to see what else I was going to cover. So we're going to show you pressing red. So if I bring up my Pinot lot again, so say now I'm ready to press this Pinot, and say I did this Pinot 50% whole cluster and 50% destemmed in the tank. vintrace cannot keep track of that until you press off your must. So this is now when you go Operation Press Cycle. This is where you can have vintrace keep track of that fraction type, that this wine is 50% whole cluster, 50% destemmed. So what we're going to do here again is we're doing a press cycle. So you need to make sure if you do empty the whole tank, you do enter the 700 gallons. Press cycle, choose your tank. We're going to go into, and then the fraction type. So this one will just be considered combined. We're going to add a line again and going into the exact same tank. Seems a little wonky, but then this tank is going to be my whole cluster. If you don't have that as an option, please email into support and tell us which one of these fraction types you want to swap out. So this used to be pressing heavy, so I swapped it out for whole cluster. And say after we press this wine into this tank, we got a total of 800 gallons. So that means 400 gallons of this tank was combined, and then 400 gallons of this was whole cluster. And you can also choose to stop fermentation as well. But we're going to press this still fermenting, so we're not going to do anything. Also with the pluses, you can make any adds as well. But mainly want to show you guys, this is how you complete a press work order by choosing all gallons must exit the tank. And then you can take any gains or losses on this end. So as you can see, as I'm taking a 100-gallon gain due to press cycle. So then now when I hit now and save, now if we look at this wine, so I click on the Pinot Noir Hills, you can see that the fraction type is 50% whole cluster and 50% combined. So as you start blending your Pinots going forward, vintrace will keep track of that. One thing you do need to make sure is that you're choosing the same other fraction type all the time. I mean, if it's legitimately, you don't know if you're going to call it free run or pressing or combined, you just need to kind of, as a team, pick, okay, if it's not a press cut, then it's going to be called combined. If we are doing a press cut, then we're going to call that free run juice and pressing juice. And then you will have the breakout fraction type of your whole cluster, free run, pressing, combined. Okay. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about doing, if you are not choosing to do Brix and Temp from a tablet going tank by tank, you want to request them through vintrace and print out a sheet from the lab console. Then you can make a list of your saved searches to include all of your unfermented and your wines in ferment on the same saved search list. So for now, I'm going to click here, just my unfermenteds, or you can keep them separate and run one list for those and then do the second list. So for requesting Brix and Temp through vintrace that you're not doing from the tablet, you can go to your save searches or just your bulk wine search, click all of it, and then go actions, lab work. And then this is where you can request the analysis template, being my B's and T's. And it can print labels, but with Brix and Temp, I don't want labels to be printed. So then I can just say, okay. So now that's been requested. So then if I go into the lab console, choose my template, hit search, it'll bring up everything that needs the B's and T's for the day. And then we can print this out to a nice little PDF sheet that you can print out, have on a clipboard for the seller to go tank by tank to enter in those Brix and Temp. And the nice thing about this, it will tell them, let me skip over, what yesterday's was, and they're going to enter in a spot for today's. And then they can make any additional notes to those as well. So let me zoom out so you can kind of see. That's kind of the full view. Alrighty, so a few other things to talk about is, so with these, I kind of talked about a little bit earlier, is your product states with your analysis templates and your ad templates. The value of those product states is you can create those saved searches to kind of trigger what stage that wine is in. So if I just go into search, bulk wine search, and we add more options, this is where you can really hone in on those product states. So you can have a product state of everything that's cold soaking, so you know when do you need to start warming that tank, and you can change the product state to warming, so you know now you need to inoculate that tank. After you've inoculated it, you are doing your daily B's and T's. Once you press it, it can be part of your ML checks, your things like that. So the product state is just a really awesome field to track what state that wine is in, to also give you kind of a checklist, to-do list on what needs to be done. And then also with these saved searches, we have those filters that you can do metric not tested in X days, metric tested in, and also metric value range. So all of these are things that I really love. We did do a whole webinar on kind of a power user of vintrace that we really talk about these saved searches. So if you'd like to watch that webinar, shoot us an email and we can forward you that link. All right, so I think I'm going to dive into some reports, and then I'll open it up for any questions or anything that I missed that people want me to show you. We can do that. So going into reports at the bottom, we have a vintage/harvest, but I'm going to talk about first fruit samples. So fruit sample reports, this is a great just your daily sample sheet, especially if you are entering lab analysis through the phone, being your veraison percentages or cluster counts or bud break, things like that. You can also open up this daily sheet to have it all on one piece of paper. So I'm going to view for the, say, month of August and then hit generate. This is going to give me a PDF of everything I have ran in the last 6 days, which wasn't very much. Let me open this up a little bit more. So here's a great example of, so here the best block was sampled. Here's the, on the 6th, on 6/11 was the Brix and pH, 6/12, 6/14, 6/11, or 7/11, 7/24, 8/24. So you can see the progression over time all from that one block. And again with this block as well. And then this vineyard has these 2 blocks and then the different sample sets of those. And that can also be done in an Excel format as well. And you can also chart any of your analysis as well. So now we're going to jump down to Vintage Harvest. From Vintage Harvest, probably my favorite report is the grape delivery report. So you can say Vintage 2019 and generate. Again, if you are a custom crush facility, you can choose by owner to have a report for each individual owner. So only if you have permission to see costing will you see the costing, but then it will give you at the top a nice grand total of how many tons you received, and then it'll bring in every single weigh tag and if a price per ton was assigned or not. And then you get a grand total at the bottom. Also is the fruit placement report. So this is where you can choose a certain vineyard, a certain block, or a certain grower and see all the wines that that specific block or vineyard has gone to. The other one is through operations. So if you are creating special treatments for your delisage, your drain and returns, your sump rack, screen, fire hose, pump overs, anything that's out of the ordinary, you create a treatment. This is where you can run an operation report for those treatments to see how often you ran those treatments or which wines got that treatment. We'll just do like a filtration for now. So we'll choose crossflow. You have to do a date range. And then this just gives you a report of how many gallons was done and which wines for that exact treatment. Alrighty, so I think that is everything I have for you. I'm going to go through the questions right now, read them out loud, walk through them. If you guys have any other questions, by clicking on the question mark, takes you to our online help. Also, if you call into support and we say, let's share a screen, this is where you can click and also suggest an idea. Please log in, give us feedback. We read through these every 3 weeks, talk with the development team and see how we can create that for you. You can go on and vote for other people's ideas. And then also don't forget to try out our new vintrace. It is fully functional. It is missing a handful of things, but you can write work orders, complete work orders, write work orders, receive fruit. You can do all that through the new interface. So give it a go and give us any feedback on that as well. All right, so now I'm going to open up for questions. Do we have any questions, guys? Here we go. Okay, so first is how do you add a scale? You'll need to go through winery setup to create that scale So another question was, can we enter individual bin weights on the app? That is something we are designing. We're hoping that will be out before harvest, but for now you can only enter in the total gross and tear on the app. You cannot do individual bin weights, but please read our release notes because that is coming soon. Okay, last one. Addition rates on the extraction work order do not. So that is true. So with the extraction work order, if you are clicking the addition tab at the top, everything will be in a rate per ton. So grams per ton, liters per ton, milliliters per ton, because vintrace is assuming if you are adding to the crusher or the press, you're doing a weight per ton. If you do not like that, you will just need to click the little add by the individual tanks, and then it will be back into the rate of your grams per liter, grams per gallon, things like that, or ppms. But anything from the addition tab at the top will only be done on a per ton rate, not a gallon or ppms or liters. And that cannot be changed. If you are wanting to change any of your rates by going through winery setup, and you can go to each individual additive and double check your rates per each additive.